Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode at America TV. My name is James, one of the e-guides here at America, and we welcome our audience members joining us online. We hope that you're doing well and staying safe. At America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. For those of you who are joining us through Zoom, welcome. There are a couple of features that you can use to actively participate with us. You can leave your questions in the Q&A box section, and also use our chat box section to say hi to the panelists and our other participants. In this episode, we'll be having Introductions to IELTS, Part 1 out of 3. But before we begin, let's break the ice with a little game. I have here a question for everyone. True or false? The IELTS is not accepted by any Ivy League institutions. Stay tuned until the end of this program because we'll be giving a live shout out to whoever can answer correctly on our social media. Now, other than that, don't forget to take a selfie and tag at America's Instagram account. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our today's moderator, Kak Santika. The stage is yours.
Thank you, James. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our another Education USA at America event. My name is Santika. I am one of the Education USA advisors here. So today, if if this is your first time, welcome. We will be very happy to let you know what Education USA is in just a minute. But for those of you who are not new in our event, welcome back and thank you so much for joining us again. On Saturday, which is your precious off day, right? All right. So I'll give you our introduction right here. Okay. So, what is Education USA? We are the U.S. Department of State. We network over 400 international students, advising center in more than 170 countries. That means we are all over the world. You can find us very easily, and I will let you know how to do that. Okay. So our network promote higher education in this for the higher education students around the world. We offer you accurate and comprehensive information, and we also guide you. Okay, so this is how we guide you, and this is our services. So I'll explain very quickly and briefly. This is the 5 steps that we use, but you don't have to come to us from the step 1, right? You can come to us from, when you are in the step 3, you have difficulties, you can just come and find us. So the step 1 is researching your options. Obviously, if you want to go to study in the United States, you need to know what kind of program and university that you want to apply to. So this is where you research your options. step, you will talk about your finance on how you want to fund your studies, if you're applying for scholarship, if you are looking for any funding, and you have questions on that and how to do it. We'll be very, very happy to assist you in that. Even though we focus more on the third step, which is completing your application to the U.S. universities. This is where if you have any questions regarding the requirements for your application to the university, to the program, you can come and find us. We will try our best to answer your questions. You can also send us your essay draft, CV or resume draft to Fina or me. Fina is another Education US advisor in Ed America. I'll give you our contacts after this one. So you can totally send your, essay draft, CV or resume if you have letter of recommendations, questions, or GRE, GMAT, IELTS, TOEFL. So today's event is about this first step, which is like studying your standardized test. So IELTS is one of them. And the fourth one is applying for your student visa. So this is when you already got accepted by any U.S. universities. Your next step will be, preparing for your departure. Then, so we have the step by step on how you can apply for your student visa from Indonesia. It's not hard. It's not, we have very high acceptance rate on student visa from Indonesian students. Um, but of course, for now, it's currently closed, and we hope that it will be reopened soon. Just go to their official website and stay tuned there if you are on the support step. So the last one is preparing for your departure. We usually call this pre-departure orientation. This is one of our yearly events. We invite alumni, the students who are going for fall on that year. So like fall 2020, fall 2021, all of the students that you know going there for that semester, we invite them to just join us, and we'll give them introduction on what you should do, what you should pack, and culture shock briefing and everything like that. It was a fun. It's going to be a fun event, and all of our events here are open for public. So even if you are still applying in the process of getting to know U.S. universities, still deciding, feel free to come to all of our events, including the pre-departure orientation, for your networking purpose as well. That's fine. Okay, so this is all of the centers in Indonesia. We have 8 centers and 10 advisors. So, um, okay, so 8 centers and 10 advisors here. Okay, let's do the screen share. Sorry, guys. There you go. Okay. Okay, so 8 centers and 10 advisors. We have 2 in Jakarta, one in the U.S. Embassy Jakarta. We have David and Iqbal. And then we also have one here in Ad America in Pacific Place Mall. There's Fina and me. Um, and we have also 2 centers in Surabaya in the U.S. Consulate General. We have Hesky as the advisor there. We are also in Universitas Airlangga, Unair. We have Ambar there. Moving to Medan, we are located in the U.S. Consulate. Jeffrey is the advisor there. And then we have one in Malang in Universitas Muhammadiyah. Zaki is the advisor. So I'm sharing this so that you can contact anyone who is the closest to you. And next one is in Makassar, Universitas Fajar. We have Chandani as the advisor there. Last but not least, we are also located in Banda Aceh. So it's in Universitas Islam Negeri, UIN Araniri. Lilis is the advisor there. So feel free to contact any of us here. You can find our contacts later on that I will share. So this one is for Education USA at America. This is Fina's and my contact. That's our email on the top left there. You can email us if you have any question. But we are still doing one-on-one advising, just how you know it's normally is when at America is open every day. So the hours is still the same from 1 until 9 p.m. We just split the hours by the two of us. So bear with us. But you can totally join us in the Zoom ID here that I give to you, 276 396 and 276-124-396. Sorry, guys. Okay, so this is where you can email us in jakarta.atamerica@educationusa.org if you don't feel like going to Zoom directly to meet Fina or me. All right, so this is our upcoming events. Obviously, this is the IELTS today, so this is the first session. We also have next one in 12th and the 19th, every Saturday, 2 until 4 p.m. And the next one is building strong CV and resume. Letter of recommendations for U.S. graduate school application. This will be on September 10th, 6:30 until 8. And this one is how to write a statement of purpose. Thursday, September 17th at 6:30 until 8:30 p.m. So all of this info session that you can attend is for free, and we will guide you. It's a very comprehensive presentation, so I really recommend any of you who is struggling to write your CV, letter of recommendations, and essay to come to this event. This is how you can find our events: educationusa.state.gov, or you can visit at america.or.id/educationusa. All right, that's it. I will. Hi. Take it away, Kishore.
Okay, great. Many thanks. Let me just share my presentation. Can you see the slide now? Yes, okay. Yeah, great. Sorry, I've lost chat now, so I can't see any chat. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today's session. My name is Kishore Roy. I work for the British Council. I am speaking to you today from Manila in the Philippines. That's where I'm based. I have a regional role, so I try and support lots of countries around East Asia. And obviously very happy to be talking to you today. Wherever you are in Indonesia, I imagine you're spread across the country, and I hope you're all safe and well, particularly in these very uncertain and unheralded times that we find ourselves in. Just to talk through the session today, we'll be talking about the computer-delivered IELTS, particularly, and I'll show some of the unique features that the computer-delivered IELTS has in comparison to the paper-based test. We'll also be talking about some tips about IELTS generally and how you can prepare as well. And at the end, I'll be sharing some resources, some freely available resources that you can exploit for both your IELTS preparation and also for your English language practice and improvement as well. So I'd suggest, if possible, keep your microphones and video cameras turned off for the time being, just to help the smooth flow. And obviously, please do check your internet connection. Again, the webcam would help if you turned it off. And I suggest you prepare some paper and pen for notes as well. Okay, so let's get into IELTS. So sorry, that was a little unexpected. I'm trying to navigate my screen. Firstly, if you can, in the chat box, please tell us, what does IELTS stand for? IELTS. What does it stand for? Please, can you put that into the chat box? Bear with me. I'm trying to find the chat box at the moment. I'm struggling. Just 1 second, please. Okay, I'm afraid I'm having a problem with that. So here we go. Okay, sorry, I found it now. Yes, so a couple of you have got it. Thank you, Alvina. I see Bodina, Urji. Yeah, all of you have got it. And okay, next question. Who owns the IELTS test? Who are the IELTS test owners? Again, if you could put that into the chat box, please. Hagai, that's a good guess, and you're correct. Mohammed, that's correct as well. Ahmed, yes, well done. There's a third one as well, actually. There is a third one, thank you. Sorry, I lost your name, that was very quick. Camelia, you're correct as well, yes. So the IELTS test, yes, is the International English Language Testing System, and we have 3 co-owners, British Council, IDP, and Cambridge English Assessment. And of course, the purpose of IELTS really is to support the people that want to travel, essentially, or access better opportunities for study, work, or life. So that could be a higher education opportunity, it could be a better job, or it could be migrating to another country. Oftentimes that's in another country, but occasionally that is within the country as well, especially when it comes to higher education. A lot of domestic institutes may ask for the IELTS as well because it may be an entrance requirement. So it's essentially a test for study, work, or life. And you may be aware IELTS is enormously successful. Last year they had, I think globally, 3.5 million people taking the IELTS test. And why is it so successful? I think the topmost reason is the global recognition. So it's recognized by over 10,000 organizations worldwide. And as I say, that's employers, embassies, as well as educational institutions and professional organizations as well. So it's built up a huge reputation over the 30 years that IELTS has been running. And particularly, obviously, you're all interested in the US. So the IELTS is recognized by about 3,500 institutes across the US. And it includes all of the Ivy League institutes as well. In addition to all other countries, the usual suspects, but also a range of different countries that offer, again, educational programs that are delivered in English. That's one key reason, I think. The test format is also very popular as well. So IELTS, when it started 30 years ago, was the original 4 skills test. That's listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And obviously, I'll be talking about those 4 skills during the course of this session. It's obviously an international English test as well. The clue is in the name. So it doesn't, it's not, biased really towards any specific English or any specific accent. International English, any accent is all going to be valid and equally acceptable. I think one of the strengths behind the IELTS is the face-to-face speaking test because it's a genuine conversation. You'll be talking to an examiner directly and it'll be a two-way conversation, which is what you'll have in real life. So that's one of the strong factors. And obviously now we do have the option of offering both paper-based and computer-delivered IELTS. In addition to that as well, obviously, we try and make it accessible, generally speaking, and we try and add value. So when IELTS is running, there are frequent sessions. Obviously, at the moment, under the current circumstances, that's a little challenging. But we're doing what we can to make it as accessible as possible. Results are available really quickly. So 13 days for the paper-based session. Currently 5 to 7 days. That will change to 3 to 5 days for the computer-delivered IELTS test very soon. So again, quick results so that you can use those results for whatever purpose you need. And then a host of preparation resources that are available from the British Council. Again, I'll be talking about them later on in this session. And obviously there are 2 versions of IELTS as well, 2 modules. So you'll choose the academic one if you're taking it for educational purposes, ostensibly. And You have the option of the general training module if you're taking it for immigration or for more work-related opportunities. People sometimes ask which is easier, which is more difficult. They're essentially the same. Again, IELTS has similar standards everywhere in the world in terms of delivery, and both these modules as well are similar in standard as well. So they're essentially the same. Again, you choose which one for the specific purpose that you need the test. And again, IELTS, you may be familiar, offers the 9-band score. So there's no pass or fail when it comes to IELTS officially. Obviously, depending on the score that you've been asked to provide by your institute, that's going to be your target score. So just out of interest, if you've already had an indication from an institute, could you type in what score you've been asked to provide into the chat box? What score has your institute asked you to obtain in the IELTS? 6.5, okay. 7, yes. 6.5, yes. Yep, okay, that sounds about right. 8 isn't that common, but generally 6.5 to 7 is the most common, and occasionally 7.5 as well. So yeah, okay, that's fine. That sounds pretty typical, I think. Thank you. So just an overview as well, very quickly on the test day experience. We try and obviously make things as efficient and smooth for all test takers. So there are various things that you'll have to do. For instance, you'll have to deposit your personal belongings. You're not allowed to take those into the test room, so you'll have to deposit them before you enter the test room. You should also go to the toilet as well beforehand, because you can't really, you lose time if you do that during the test. There'll often be the requirement for security, and especially your photo will be taken on test day as well. And that is the photo that is then used on your test result form. And obviously as well, there'll be some finger scanning required on the day as well. So that's just a quick overview. As I said, we try and make it as efficient and smooth for you. And obviously nowadays, we've added in a host of additional precautionary measures for health and safety for your benefit. So they include the things there. So temperature scanning before entering the test room, an enhanced distance between test takers. We provide the hand sanitizers on the test day as well, and obviously encourage you to wash your hands regularly. Face masks can be worn during the test. You may have to remove it for security purposes at a specific point, but generally during the test, both the written test and the speaking test, you can wear face masks or even face shields if you have them as well. And obviously, we are ensuring that all test venues are thoroughly cleaned, prior to the start of every single test session. So that's all to reassure you, to protect you, and to protect our staff as well, in terms of the current health and safety requirements. Okay, so let's dive into the heart of this session. So this is on computer delivered IELTS, as I say. We're going to start with a quick video. 1 second, and I hope you can hear this. So as you listen to the video, again, make any notes and any key significant factors that you gain from the video.
Welcome to our Computer Delivered IELTS Tutorial 1. This tutorial will show you how to complete and prepare for Computer Delivered IELTS. For each section, there's a clock at the top of the screen, which tells you how much time you have left. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. The instructions for each part are in the box at the top of the screen. You can use the navigation bar at the bottom of the screen to move from one question to the next. click on the number to go to that question. You can also click on the forward arrow to go to the next question, or the back arrow to go to the previous question. When you have answered the question, a line will appear under that question in the navigation bar. You can click on Review if you want to look at the question again later. The question number will be shown as a circle. You can review and change your answers at any time until the end of the test. Click on the yellow arrow if you want to make the navigation bar smaller. You can use the scroll bar to see all the questions. In each of the tests, you can change the screen settings. To do this, click on the Settings tab at the top of the screen. You can change the size and color of the text. In each of the tests, there is a Help tab. If you click on the Help tab, this will give you information about the task you're currently doing. If you click on Test Help, you will see information about how the test works. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of the text. If you need to leave the test room for a few minutes, you can hide your screen by clicking on the Hide tab. When you return to the test room, click on the Resume Test button. That is the end of the introduction tutorial for computer-delivered IELTS. Check out the British Council IELTS YouTube channel for tutorial videos for listening, reading, and writing.
Okay, anything that was interesting for you during that video, please write in your ideas on the chat box. What was the most interesting thing that you learned there about the computer-delivered IELTS? A quick answer to Diding. So Diding was asking, when we click on Setting and Help, does it reduce our test time? So actually, what I'd suggest is you have the chance to click on Setting before the test starts. So you take that opportunity then. Click on the setting, adjust it to whatever you're more comfortable with, and you do that before the test starts. You won't lose any test time. Obviously, if you do it during the test, then I'm afraid, yes, you will lose test time. But you will get the chance before the test starts to adjust those settings to your personal preferences. So, as I say, take advantage of that if you can. Thank you, Mona. Yeah, you can leave the room and resume. But again, as I say, the option is there. You can pause the test, but you will lose time while you do that. So, try and avoid that if it's all possible. Hakia, so in the computer-based test, you can jump from any question. Yes, essentially, yeah, you can. As the video suggested, you've got the questions at the bottom there, and I think that's particularly handy in the writing or the reading. So you can go backwards, forwards, use a different section first if you want to. So you do have that ability to jump backwards and forwards across the test. Bondan, how will the speaking section be done on the computer-delivered test? That's a good question. I will talk about speaking later in the test. But to a large extent, speaking doesn't change. So the computer-delivered test is mainly a change for the listening, reading, and writing sections. So speaking continues to be offered face-to-face. What we do have now occasionally is that face-to-face may be on a computer. Again, that's something that we've looked into introducing more so in the last few months because of the current health concern. You're still doing a face-to-face interview, but occasionally it will be literally physically face-to-face, and occasionally it will be on computer face-to-face, but essentially on a Zoom platform like we're using today. So again, I'll talk about the speaking more a little later. Okay, thank you all. So just to reinforce, sorry, let me move on. Just to reinforce some of the key features. So you've got the clock on the top of your screen. You'll have that throughout the test. So you're not looking at, you don't have to worry about, your watch or a physical clock in the room. You can check the time any time. And again, in the last 5 minutes of that particular section, that section will go red, just to reinforce to you that the clock is ticking, so to speak. You've got that navigation bar at the bottom, as we said, and that helps you from one question or one section to another. You've got the screen settings, as we discussed, that allow you to change the font size, the colors, the resolution to your preference. Again, you'll get the chance to adjust that before the test starts. So please take advantage of that opportunity. You can hide the tab if you wish. And just to reassure you as well, note paper will be provided during the test. So, some of you, and I would share your sentiments. Some of you may still want to write ideas down. Obviously that's fine. You'll get paper. You'll have the option of having pen and or a pencil, and you can scroll those notes down if you wish to. Obviously, you can also write on the computer, and I'll again talk about how that works in the coming sessions. So there's some specific features of the computer delivered test, and also again just to reassure you, this is the computer based delivered exam room in the British Council in Jakarta. So this is the typical setup that you'll be getting, certainly in Jakarta. We're working on other venues across the country. So we already have venues in Bandung, Surabaya, Medan. They're not necessarily all as good as this, but we hope they will be in due course. And this is as I say, this is the Jakarta one that most of you may having a chance to go and sit the test in due course. So again, as I say, all designed to make your test experience as smooth and efficient as possible. That's just an overall introduction to the test as a whole. I'll just have a quick check on questions. If you want clarification on your test result, yes. So any IELTS test you take, be it paper-based or computer-based, you can apply for an inquiry on results. That service is available for both computer-based and paper-based IELTS. So no worry about that. Yes, you can use the keyboard, certainly. Does the computer-delivered test also count the word limit? Yes, we're going to talk about writing in a later session, but yes, that you do have a word count in the computer-delivered test. Obviously, you don't have that feature in paper-based IELTS. So I think that's a really useful feature. So yes, the answer to that question is yes. As I say, we'll come to writing very shortly. So we're gonna go through each section of the test one by one. We'll start with listening. So just a quick overview. The listening is 30 minutes long. There's always 4 sections to the test, and each approximately has 10 questions each. You get 1 mark per question. There is no negative marking in the IELTS. No negative marking. So if you get a chance, just put an answer down. You will not be marked negatively if you get it wrong. Each section is played only one time, only once. And as I said earlier, it's an international English language test. So, you will hear a range of different accents. So it could be American, for instance, or Australian, or British, or pretty much anywhere potentially. Again, it's an international English language test. So that's just a quick overview of the listening section. And as I say, 4 sections, generally, this is how they will look. So they vary depending on, the section. It could be a conversation, or it could be a monologue. And particularly in section 4, it's more likely to be a lecture. Okay, so another quick video. Again, listen to this, and as you're listening, make notes on anything that you think is particularly useful or helpful in the IELTS listening on computer.
For the listening test, you can change the volume by using the volume bar in the top right at any time during the test. For each part of the listening test, you will hear the recording once only. Some parts of the test have more than one type of question. Each type of question has its own instructions. In the listening test, listen carefully for the part number and question numbers to make sure you are looking at the right screen. For some questions, you need to write your answer in the gap. For some questions, you need to choose which diagram label, A, B, C, etc., is correct for which item listed in the table.
Sorry about that.
For each part of the listening test, you will hear the recording once only. Some parts of the test have more than one type of question. Each type of question has its own instructions. In the listening test, listen carefully for the part number and question numbers to make sure you are looking at the right screen. For some questions, you need to write your answer in the gap. For some questions, you need to choose which diagram label, A, B, C, etc., is correct for which item listed in the table. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. For some questions, you need to click on an answer and move it into the gap. If you want to change an answer, move another answer into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the question back. And for some questions, you need to move an answer into a gap on a diagram. At the end of the listening test, you'll have 2 minutes to check all of your answers. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes.
Okay, once again, anything that was interesting in that video on the listening test, any comments, can you put them into the chat box, please? What did you find most interesting there? Just a quick response to Mohammed's question about the price. The price currently for both computer-based and paper-based exams on IELTS is the same, exactly the same. That can change, obviously, at some stage, but currently the price is exactly the same for both paper-based and computer-based. Yep. Cesarani, in terms of accents, again, there could be a range of different accents. As I said earlier, could be American, could be Australian, could be British, could be anything. It's an international English language test, so you're going to get a range of different accents there. Is there a save button? That's an interesting question, Navita. Is there a save button or is it automatically saved? It is automatically saved. So don't worry about having to click the save button like you would do normally, perhaps. All your answers are automatically saved. And yes, Nico, so you are given time at the end of each section to review your answers, and at the end of the of all 4 sections as well. So you'll get 2 opportunities. It's usually 30, 45 seconds at the end of each section, and then 2 minutes to recheck at the end of the 4 sections of the listening test as well. Would you see the test result after you finish the test? Not immediately, no. As I said, the test result currently is available after 5 days, and soon we're hoping that will be available after 3 days. That's what we're aiming towards. So currently, you get your result after 5 days. Okay, so just a quick recap on the key features. So you've got that option of adjusting the volume, again, to suit your preference. You've got various ways of answering on the computer-based listening test. Sometimes it's typing the answer, sometimes it's dragging and dropping. So again, generally, if you're confident and experienced using a computer, these will all be things that you'll be able to do. And as I just said, in response to that question, you'll get 2 minutes at the end to check on all of your answers. And again, you do get a little bit of time at the end of each section as well. So they're the key features of computer-delivered IELTS listening. So we've got some tips as well, generally. In terms of the test itself, you're provided headphones, so you don't have to worry about that. And as I say, before the test, you've got the chance to adjust things to your personal preference. So that includes the headset, obviously, adjust that, in terms of the volume. And obviously, if you do have any issues with your headsets, please tell our staff. We will have backups. We'll be able to arrange a new headphone for you. Obviously, with the IELTS test, it is very, very important to follow the instructions. So, oftentimes, for example, you'll be told, write no more than 3 words. And if you see that, and I'm sorry, if you write 4 words, automatically it's wrong. It's, as I say, you've just got to follow the instructions. So note that and pay attention to that and then follow that really carefully. Particularly in the listening, use the time given to you before and after in terms of preparation. So for instance, before you listen, look at the questions, underline the key words, and try and anticipate what you will hear. So as I say, note down the key words that you will identify in the question. That helps you prepare for the test because you can think about the type of answer that you're looking for. Is it someone's name? Is it a number? Is it an amount of money, for instance? Is it a time? What is it that you're looking for? Identify that, and again, that prepares your brain really to pick up that key piece of information. One key thing that you'll often see in IELTS, and it's both listening and reading, is the use of synonyms. So synonyms are different words with the same meaning. And you'll often see what happens in an IELTS question. You'll have a keyword, and again, identify them in advance. And then when you do the listening, you'll hear a different word with the same meaning. And you really need to make those connections because they oftentimes will be key to getting the right answer. So watch out for that and prepare for that as well. When you're preparing, try and enhance your vocabulary, and in particular, think about synonyms. So that's different words with the similar meaning. As I said earlier, no penalties for incorrect answers. So if you're not sure, by all means, have a guess, and you may get lucky. And just to clarify as well, spelling and capitalization, where relevant, they do count. So unfortunately, if you do make a mistake in either of those, there is a chance that you will lose marks. So again, pay attention to those details. Pay attention to the instructions. Pay attention to the little things like spelling and capitalization, because they can be important. And again, just a general point in terms of practice and preparation. What I'd suggest is try and use a range of resources in terms of improving your listening. So again, think about different medium, and you can choose whatever is your preference, really. So it could be television, could be movies, could be radio. Nowadays, obviously, you've got podcasts that you may be listening to. Could be lectures, or it could be online videos, for instance, on YouTube. So again, follow whatever your preference is, and try and get the variety there. So, for instance, I've listed a few options there that can help you access different accents. So you've got the BBC, you've got the Australian Broadcasting Company, and you've got Voice of America. And I imagine maybe you're more familiar with the last one, perhaps. So they are useful and valuable resources when it comes to the listening. Before I go on to the reading, any immediate questions on the IELTS listening? Just check very quickly. There is no additional time for transferring, no, because you don't really need to transfer. You'll be writing your answers on there onto the using a keyboard directly. You do get review time, so you do get that chance to review your answers. Maybe pick up any spelling mistakes. Maybe change your answers if needs be. Are you allowed to bring note paper into the test room? No, I'm afraid not. No. But as I say, you will be given note paper during the test. So don't worry about that. You'll have that option. Can you repeat the test if you don't get the band that you need? Yes, Tree. Yes, you can repeat the test. Obviously, you'll have to re-register. You've got two options if you don't get the band score you need. If you feel you've done better than the score suggests, you can apply for an inquiry on results, which is a remarking. So all of your papers potentially can be remarked, or you have the option to re-register and retake the test. Yes, that's fine. Okay, right. So we're going to go on to the reading test. Firstly, what do you know about the IELTS reading? Maybe if you could just put down some quick answers into the chat box, please. What do you know about IELTS reading? How many questions are there? How many sections are there? Anything like that. Any insights in the IELTS reading? Into the chat box, please. Fair enough. Thank you very much. That you're the first. You got, yes, that's correct. There are three sections in the reading test. Yep. They vary, actually. The word count varies depending on which IELTS you're taking. Okay, so let's just go through that as well. So again, timing wise, 60 minutes. And as some of you have mentioned, 3 sections, again, a total of 40 items, 40 questions. And again, 1 mark for each correct answer. And again, incorrect grammar or any spelling errors, they will be penalized. Again, so please pay attention. it will be a tragedy really if you lose marks just for little errors like that. As I said, the exact content varies on the module that you're taking, but again, both of the modules, academic and general training, have 3 sections each. The source is different, and the length as well, and the word count, for instance, is different depending on which one you're taking as well. Again, the choice that you make in terms of which module will be dependent on why you're taking IELTS in the first place. For instance, if you're applying for an educational purpose, then in all likelihood you'll take academic. Again, so we've got a very short video, and once again, if you can, please just take notes on anything that you think is particularly helpful or interesting with computer-delivered IELTS in the reading.
In the reading test, the text appears on the left and the questions on the right. To see all the text and the questions, you will need to use both scroll bars. For some questions, you need to choose an answer. If you want to change your answer, click on a new answer. If you want to leave a question unanswered, click on the answer again. To look at the next question, just click on the question itself. For some questions, you need to choose more than one answer. If you want to change any of your answers, click on the answer you want to change and then click on your new answer. If you want to leave any of the questions unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to choose which paragraph or section contains the information listed in the table. Remember to scroll to read all the text. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. If you want to change an answer, click on Your New Answer. If you want to leave the question unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to click on a heading for a paragraph or section and move it into the gap. If you want to change your answer, move another heading into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the heading back. And for some questions, you need to write your answer on a gap in a diagram. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of the text. To do this, left-click and drag your cursor over the section of the text or question you wish to highlight. Then, right-click and select the highlight option. To remove highlighting from the text, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. If you wish to remove all highlighting from the screen, right-click on a highlighted area and select Clear All. You can also make notes on a section of text. To do this, left-click and drag the cursor over the section of text or question you want to make notes about. Then, right-click and select the Notes option. Your chosen section of text will be highlighted, and a yellow notepad will appear. You can write your notes on this. click on the X in the notepad to hide your notes. To see your notes again, click on the highlighted section of the text. If you want to see which areas of highlighted text have notes, move the cursor slowly over each area of highlighted text. If a small orange box appears, it means that the highlighted text contains notes. To remove notes from text or questions, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear.
Okay, once again, please, any questions or observations on the IELTS reading in the computer-based test, please, and add them into the chat box, please. What was particularly useful? What was particularly interesting? Yeah, I agree, Putri. Yeah. Just like PDF, you can highlight and put notes. I think that's a really useful feature. As I say, so note taking, you've got the option. You can do it on the computer, or you can do it on paper if you like as well. You get both options. So again, it works for both different people. Yes, Diding, I agree. That highlighting of sentences is also very useful, I think, as well. Okay, yeah, so just to recap, note you've got the two scroll bars. So you can flip up and down on the text if you want, or you can flip up and down on the questions. And they're not, linked. So you've got that option. And again, I think for me, this is another advantage. In the paper-based test, you'll be flipping backwards and forwards, over different pages. You don't have to worry about that in the computer-based test. You've just got it all in front of you on the screen. You just scroll down. So again, a useful little feature there. As we've said, you can highlight sections and you can take notes as well. It looks like a kind of an online post-it. But again, really useful feature, I think. There. So that's how the reading test is is different. Again, some key tips, as we've said, spelling, it's really important, and part of that, obviously, where relevant, be careful with plurals, for instance. As I said earlier, please follow instructions carefully. Pay attention to those. There's an example there. Please do pay attention and follow those instructions. Again, no negative marking. So, attempt all questions, and obviously, no additional time to check your answers. You have 60 minutes in total. So check your answers within that period. Give yourself time to do that. Leave yourself time at the end of each section or at the end of the test as a whole to check your answers. Again, in terms of skills that you need, these are a couple of skills that are relevant and again need practicing really. So try and do that. So skimming is the skill that we use when we are quickly reading something to get a general idea. So for instance, you'll be looking at titles, subtitles, keywords, topic sentences, just to get a general idea. You're not reading every word. So that's one important skill. And then another one is called scanning, and that's looking for specific information. So if you know what you're looking for, as I said earlier, analyze the questions, identify the keywords, identify what kind of answer you're looking for. Is it someone's name? Is it, for example, a phone number? Is it maybe an amount of money? Is it a time? Once you know what kind of information you're looking for, you can use the scanning technique to home in on that specific detail. So both of these skills are important, especially because they do not need you to read every word in the article. And obviously, you've got 3 sections to read. You've got 60 minutes. Time is a big challenge. You do not have time to read every word in each article. So don't try. Don't try and do that. Look for what you need to do specifically. So again, use one of these 2 skills where relevant. And again, practice these skills in advance of your test. And the third skill is intensive reading. So for instance, one of the typical questions you get in an IELTS reading is a true, false, not given. And to do that, in order to understand, is this statement true or false or not given, you've got to read intensively and carefully. You've got to understand the nuance in what you're doing. So occasionally that is necessary. It's not always necessary, but occasionally it is, again, depending on the question. So make sure you understand what the question is looking for and what you need to do to find the answer. So they're reading skills that you want to pay attention to. And then again, some general tips. As I say, 60 minutes for 3 sections isn't that long. So don't spend too long on one passage or one question. You don't have the time. You've got to try and get that balance. Obviously, the recommendation is 20 minutes per section. And then you can cover 3 sections equally. Hey, don't try and read every word. You don't have the time. You are reading for a purpose. So analyze the question, identify the purpose that you're reading for, and then use the appropriate skill or strategy to find the answer. Don't worry if you don't know anything about the subject. This is not, the reading is not a knowledge test. All of the answers will be in the reading passages. You're not expecting any prior knowledge. So, just keep calm. And as I say, make sure you use the most of the time. Again, if there is a word that you don't understand, don't worry about it. You may not need to understand it, to be honest. And if you do, what you can do is try and guess the meaning of the word from the context. Guess the meaning of the word from the sentence. Again, that's a skill that you can practice in advance of the test. And again, in order to improve your reading skills generally, I advise you read as much as you can. And again, as we said earlier, the more variety in your reading sources, the better. So it could be books, it could be newspapers or the news, or it could be any online resources that you are interested in. And with practice, try and develop that skill of reading quickly. And again, reading quickly depends on what you're reading for. If you're skimming to get a general idea, do that. If you're scanning to find a specific detail, use that skill as well. But try and improve your reading speed, because that is going to be key in the reading test. Okay, so that's a quick run through of the reading. Any questions on the reading? I'm just checking quickly. Yeah, interesting. So I'm looking at this question about highlighting. You don't worry about it. No one is going to check. In fact, I don't even think that gets saved. Any notes, any highlighting that you do, don't worry about it. It will not make any difference to your score. So don't worry about that one. Yes, Mark, if you need to leave the test room for any purpose, the hide button is available. So yeah, you can use that if you need to leave the room. I mean, again, unfortunately, in most cases, if you leave the room during the written test, you're gonna lose time. You're not going to get extra time to make up for it, to compensate for it. So I don't recommend it. if you can avoid it. But if it's unavoidable, yes, you can use the hide screen. There was one question I noticed earlier from Abby. So Abby is asking about reasonable adjustments for test takers with visual disability. It's a really good question, Abby, and I'm glad you mentioned it. That is possible, but there is no definitive answer in terms of what adjustments will be made, because they vary from case to case. So what you would need to do, if you do require adjustments, you need to tell us in advance. And to be honest, we recommend as far in advance as possible. And you know, I think I would suggest 3 months if possible, 3 months in advance, because these are tricky questions, and we won't necessarily make the decision in Indonesia. They will often go to headquarters, where we've got experts that can judge, you know, the best adjustment for your specific circumstances. So please give us advance notice and provide us with medical evidence of your specific disability. And then, as I say, our experts will be best placed to judge what kind of adjustment is possible. So, for instance, additional time is one possibility. You know, depending on the nature of your disability, we could even provide you know, Braille, for instance, if you're taking the paper-based exam. So there are various solutions available. You can't choose your solution. As I say, our experts will decide on that. But as I say, you know, send in your evidence, and we will do whatever we can to get the most appropriate adjustment for you. Okay, so that's the IELTS reading. Let's move on to writing. Once again, what do you know about the IELTS writing test? If you could very quickly put in some comments into the chat. Anything that you know about IELTS writing. Bondan, sorry, Mona, you're very quick. 2 sections. That's correct. I've never described it in that way, expository and argumentative, but I kind of know what you mean. Bondan, the most challenging section. Well, yeah, I think that there are always quite a few you know, test takers that say the same, and hopefully some of the tips I'll talk about in the next 10 minutes will be helpful for you. Dalia, thank you. Yeah, 2 sections and a total of 60 minutes. That's true. Yeah. So quick overview. Actually, sorry, before I go into that, do you know, anyone, what you are assessed on when you do the IELTS writing? What criteria are you assessed on in terms of your IELTS writing? Anyone have any idea on that? What kind of factors, what kind of considerations are examiners taking into account when they are assessing your IELTS writing performance? What criteria, what considerations? Fair enough. Yep, grammar is one. Yep, very much so. But yep. Mark, that you're right. That's 3 there, actually. Well done. Coherence, cohesion, grammar, and vocabulary. Mona, you're right. Organization is part of coherence. Thank you, Ferna. Lexical resource. There's one more that no one has mentioned so far. I'll give you another 5-10 seconds to see if anyone knows that the 4th criteria. So we've got coherence, cohesion, that's organization. We've got grammar, vocabulary, lexical resource, same thing. And there is one more. Okay, all right, well, let's talk about them now. So again, The IELTS writing tasks vary very slightly depending on which module you're taking. So again, most of you, I imagine, will be taking academic. So task 1, there is a description of a diagram of some nature. And then task 2 is an essay or an argument, a discussion on a given topic. You've got the varying word counts there, and the word counts are important because you do get penalized if you are under length. And again, you've got recommended timings there as well. So again, I would very much advise you keep to those recommended timings. Also worth noting, task 2 is worth roughly 65% of your overall IELTS writing score. 2/3. Task 2 contributes 2/3 of your overall writing score. Task 1 contributes 1/3, and hence the recommended timings as well. 2/3 of your 60 minutes should go on task 2, with that in mind. And then, as I said, in terms of the assessment, I think the one that no one really mentioned was task achievement or task response. So essentially, this is the degree to which you have answered the question. Have you answered the specific question that was given? And this is really important as well, because sometimes, especially in task 2, one question will have 2 or 3 elements to the question. One question isn't always just one question. So there could be 2 or 3 elements to a question. You need to answer all of them. And equally as well, especially in task 2, you need to answer the specific question you're given. Sometimes I've seen test takers maybe have a quick look at the question. They think it's about a certain subject, and then they write about that subject, but they've misunderstood maybe. They're talking about the wrong thing. They're talking about the wrong subject, perhaps. And as a result, their answer is not going to score very well on this criteria. So this is really, really about answering the question, answering all parts of the question and answering the specific question as well. The other sections, the other criteria you guys picked up earlier. So coherence and cohesion is about your organization, and it's also about your linking as well. How you've organized your writing answer, and also how you link different parts of a sentence, how you link sentences, and how you link paragraphs to make it easy to read. So all of that, and these are things that you will probably do on a day-to-day basis without thinking about it, but all of that will help your answer be easy to read for your reader, and that's key. That's really, really important. Lexical resource, which is grammar. It's vocabulary. And again, the idea there is a range of vocabulary as well. So don't always use the same words. Don't always use the same keywords. Try and vary it. As I said earlier, try and use words of a different meaning. Try and use different words with a similar meaning. I get that right. Different words with a similar meaning. And remind me, what do we call them? What are different words of a similar meaning? Put that in the chat box, please. What do we call those words? And finally, the last criteria is grammar. And again, grammar is about range and accuracy. So accuracy speaks for itself, I guess. Avoid any mistakes. Range means use different types of grammar. Don't always use the same tense. Don't always use the present simple, for example. Vary it. Obviously, make it appropriate depending on the context, but try and vary the grammatical tenses that you use. So you might, for instance, use conditionals. You might use simple sentences or complex sentences as well. So you've got to find that variety there as well. Yeah, well done to all of you. Different words of a similar meaning, they're synonyms. Okay, so that's the criteria for writing. And then just to clarify as well, all four of these criteria are equal weighting. None of them are any more important than the other. Your writing score is an average of these 4 marks. Just to expand on what examiners are looking for a bit more, obviously they're looking for you to make sure you have answered the question, as I said, analyze it and address it fully. They're looking for you to organize your answers. So again, think about what you're going to say where, use paragraphs effectively. So for instance, you might have you might have 4 or 5 paragraphs in your writing answer. Organize your ideas logically into those paragraphs. For task 2, it's important you express an opinion clearly. And again, for task 2, you may be required to present a convincing argument as well. Okay, very quickly, one more video. This is the last video that we show you. And so this is going to highlight the differences of IELTS writing when you take the computer-based test.
There are 2 parts to the writing test. Part 1 and Part 2. You can answer the parts in either order. You write your answer in the space on the right of the screen. Your answers are saved automatically. You do not need to press Enter on your keyboard. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left.
Okay, so that was quite short, but again, just the key features. You can answer either question first. So again, you've got that choice. I think someone mentioned that earlier in the webinar. You can address each section whichever way you choose. There's no perfect way of doing it. Some prefer to do task 2 first because it's going to carry more marks. Some prefer to finish task 1 first quickly and then get into task 2 and give themselves more time. So there's no perfect way. It's up to you. You decide what suits you. As we said earlier, answers are saved automatically. You don't have to press a save button continuously. Obviously, this is writing on a computer, but unlike in Microsoft Word, for example, no grammar or spelling check is available. You've got to do that yourself, unfortunately. So again, leave yourself time to do that. However, the word count function is available, and it's there right at the bottom, on the bottom left. And you also have the options of copy, paste, and erase. So you can do that as you would normally on a computer as well. So there are little advantages, I think, that the computer-delivered IELTS provides you. So they're the distinct features of that test. And sorry, that's the word count that I mentioned. Okay, so some tips very quickly for writing. As we've said in previous sections, really make sure you understand and read the question carefully, follow the instructions, and make sure you are addressing the question appropriately. Analyze the test, again, underline important information. Spend a couple of minutes understanding the information in the diagram, if necessary. Take a bit of time to plan as well. As we said, organization is important. But if you spend 2 minutes planning what you're going to write, your writing becomes much easier. So I would strongly suggest you spend a bit of time planning. It's a really important and valuable investment for you. When you talk about academic task 1, you have to provide an overview. I will talk about that in a minute. So what is an overview? So this is a typical task 1 diagram. And what you'll need to do for an overview is somewhere in your task 1 answer, you'll need to provide a summary of what this diagram is showing you, both the detail and the overriding or the main features of the diagram. So for instance, if you're looking at this, what are the key features that you would pick up on for in this diagram? So you would notice, for example, that the trend of buses goes up and down. However, the trends for cars just goes up, with every time period. The trend for bike goes down, and the trends for travel by foot goes down as well. So that is an overview of the key detail from this task 1 exercise. And that's what you need to reflect somewhere in your IELTS writing. So for example, you might write this. Give you 2 minutes just to have a quick look at it. So the second sentence there is the overview. It appears that while the use of cars has significantly increased in this period, that's the line going up, the use of bicycle and traveling on foot has declined, that's going down, and then the uses of buses have been up and down. So that's the overview. Again, you've got to include that somewhere in your task 1. It can, in theory, go anywhere. You might do it in the introduction, you might do it in the conclusion. There's no perfect answer. I would suggest probably do it in the introduction, because at least that way, do that before you forget to do that. But again, the choice is yours. So that's one really important feature of task 1 when it comes to IELTS writing. If any of you are taking the general training, this is a letter. So this is a typical thing, a typical example of the letter. And this is perhaps a little more straightforward. Obviously, the key point there is address all parts of the question. So that means address all bullet points. So again, read the question, underline the key details, decide whether this letter should be more formal or more informal, again, depending on the task that you've been given. Again, plan address all parts of the question. So as I say, all bullet points that are relevant there. Task 2, again, this is a typical example. In this case, you've got to, discuss your reasons and examples for this specific topic. So things to remember. Again, I don't apologize for repeating it because it's really, really critical. Read the question carefully and make sure you answer all aspects of the question and make sure you answer the specific question that's given to you. If you're asked for an opinion, make sure you provide that. Plan and organize your ideas. Again, you'll have rough paper if you want to use that. So by all means, take advantage of that. I mentioned earlier, use paragraphing. There is no ideal number of paragraphs. Students ask me this sometimes. It doesn't, there's nothing fixed. Sometimes, 3 or 4 paragraphs might be fine. Sometimes 6 or 7 might be fine as well. It depends on what you're writing. It depends on how you want to organize it. There's no fixed answer there. Do write in complete sentences. Don't use bullet points. That doesn't work in IELTS, unfortunately. And as I said, do stick to the topic, please. Don't focus on something else because you know more about a different topic, for example. Stick to the topic you've been given. Otherwise, you risk losing marks. And make sure that your register is appropriate for task 2. So it should be formal, really. You should imagine that you're probably writing to your professor, for example. And again, in terms of expanding on your answer, make sure you try and develop your points. So I always recommend the 3 E's. So explain, give examples, or maybe mention something from your experience. Try and develop your points. And again, try and do that quickly but effectively within a paragraph, for instance. Again, yeah, obviously we talked about the criteria. That includes grammar and vocabulary. That includes spelling, for instance, and obviously grammatical accuracy. So do check your work for any mistakes. Leave 5 minutes or more maybe at the end to do that, to pick up those little issues. We all have to do that. We all have to look out for those things. Okay, so that was IELTS writing. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to steam straight ahead and talk about speaking very quickly. And then in the last section, I'm going to share some resources that will be useful for you. So IELTS speaking, just a quick overview. Typically takes 11 to 14 minutes. Again, as we said, it's one-to-one, and it'll be face-to-face one way or the other. And they will always be recorded. That's for your benefit. So as I said earlier, you might want to request a remarking, for instance, and the recording is going to help you in getting that remarked. And just so you know as well, many IELTS speaking and writing indeed are double marked as well. There are different double marking procedures that are involved in IELTS. So again, the recordings are necessary for double marking purposes, even if you don't want to request that yourself. In terms of the criteria, they're kind of similar to writing to some extent. You'll notice grammar and vocabulary are both there and pretty much the same. The speaking specific criteria are fluency and coherence. So fluency is your ability to talk continuously on a subject without hesitation or without unnecessary pausing, for instance. And obviously pronunciation is how you're speaking as well. Again, one thing to note here, accent is not necessarily an issue. If you're using maybe a more American accent or more British accent or more Australian accent, that won't be an issue. The key thing about pronunciation is clarity. Can you be understood regardless of your accent? Is it easy to hear you? Is it easy to understand what you're trying to say? That's the key thing about pronunciation. And there's also things like sentence stress or chunking, which can also, they're features of pronunciation which can change meaning, which can add layers of meaning to what you're saying as well. So there are different things in pronunciation that you want to think about. Again, as with writing, all of these equal weighting, your score is an average of the 4. That's how a typical IELTS speaking test will look like. So section 1 is an introduction and some familiar topics. Section 2 is what we call the long turn. So you'll be asked to speak on a topic for 2 minutes, and you'll get 1 minute to prepare in advance of that. And again, you get some note paper to do that. And then section 3 is a more abstract discussion, following on from part 2. So with the same topic you talked about then. So that's the typical structure for your IELTS speaking. And again, this is the same whether you're doing it face to face or whether you're doing it on computer. All of these details, all of the criteria are exactly the same. So what's the examiner looking for? Again, your ability to communicate clearly and effectively, your ability to speak at length. That's where the fluency comes in. Your ability to organize your ideas coherently. And again, so that's talking in such a way which makes it easier for your listener to understand what you're saying. The opposite of that would be talking in a very random way, which would be confusing for your listener. So that's really important in terms of organizing ideas. And then potentially as well, in part 3, expressing or justifying your opinions as well. And also those as well, analyzing, discussing, and speculating as well, also come into part 3. That's the typical kind of part 1 discussion. So for instance, around television. And I think what's useful again here to think about as well is, if you're giving an answer, don't just stop at that answer. If you're giving an answer in the speaking test, try and expand on it. And the easiest way to expand on an answer is by answering the why. So talking about why, what the reasons are for your answer. So for instance, how often do you watch television? You might say very rarely. Before the examiner asks you that question, answer directly. Very rarely, because I'm not really interested in what they show on television anymore. So you try and address the why question proactively in your answer, because again, that's going to be an indicator, for instance, of your fluency potentially. And this is a really useful resource that I recommend as well. It's called Vocaroo. You'll find this online. It's a free website. And what you can do here is you can record yourself speaking. And this is very useful for yourself, but also potentially for your teachers as well. So what you can do here is record yourself speaking, maybe answering an IELTS question, and then you can share that recording with your teacher. So that's something I would strongly recommend. It's useful for yourself. As I say, if you want to share it with a teacher or with a friend, maybe, you can also do that as well. So check that out. That's going to be very helpful for you. Some general things to remember: try and relax, and try and take every opportunity to show your speaking ability. Important to speak clearly, as I said. Don't worry about accents. What you think about your clarity, and focus on that. Be prepared to talk about yourself and your experience, if you have any. And if you don't have experience on a certain subject, try and put yourself in someone else's shoes. Try and put yourself in your parents' shoes, for example, or your teacher's shoes. Try and think of a topic from a different angle, or from a different perspective. That won't be an issue in terms of your speaking answer. We're not looking for right or wrong answers necessarily. We're just looking at your ability to communicate. Give your opinions, and again, try and answer questions as fully as possible. And then just things, to try and avoid. Don't talk too fast, or equally, don't talk too slowly as well. You need to speak at a regular rate, and again, that's really important for fluency. Don't use your first language in the middle of an IELTS speaking test, because that's not helpful, unfortunately. It's probably going to distract you, and it probably will be a distraction for the examiner as well. Don't worry if you make the odd mistake. Happens to all of us. I've noticed mistakes I've made in this webinar myself, so don't worry about that. Keep going. That's not going to, the odd mistake here and there is not going to be a problem. And don't memorize answers in advance. Occasionally I see this as well. It doesn't really help. To be honest, we usually identify this quite easily. It's going to work against you more than it's going to work for you, I would suggest. So don't do that. And again, don't worry about occasional hesitation. If you need a bit of thinking time, that's okay. Take it. Don't make it too long, and don't repeat it if you can too much during the speaking test. And again, lastly, don't worry about examiners interrupting you. I mentioned the three parts of the speaking test, and examiners have to keep to the timing of individual parts quite tightly. So if they interrupt you, usually because they need to move on to the next part of the test, it's usually because of a timing related issue. It's not going to be you in most circumstances. Okay, so that's IELTS speaking. Anyone have any questions for IELTS speaking very quickly? Or indeed writing. Sorry, I moved on from writing. I noticed a question from Salsa. If you don't meet the minimum words in the writing, does your answer count as not answered or count with less score? Yes, it's not answered, but you will lose marks for under-length answers. You do lose marks, yes. But it won't be not answered entirely, but there will be deducted marks. Any other questions on writing or speaking? How do you do the speaking test technically in computer-based? So as I say, the speaking test will be either face-to-face. The speaking test is always separate from your written test. You'll do that at a separate time, usually the same day, but at a separate time. And the speaking test might be face-to-face in, for example, the British Council offices, or the speaking test might be online. In fact, like we're doing today on a Zoom call. Either way, it will be face-to-face. Either way, you'll be talking to a real examiner. So either way, everything about the test itself is exactly the same. The criteria, the different parts of the speaking test, all the same. But the only difference is, obviously, if you're doing it on a computer, you're probably using headphones, and it'll be, as I say, on Zoom, like we are today. Any other questions on speaking or writing? Putri, interesting question. Is there a specific topic that is always used in speaking and writing tests? The answer is no. There is no specific topic that is always used in speaking and writing. The topics change all the time. And there are countless different topics that are used as well. So again, don't try and prepare for a specific topic. I think what you should focus on is your skills. And if you develop your skills, then you can use them in any topic that you get. And again, as I said earlier, if you're worried about your experience in relation to a specific topic, again, think about a topic from a different angle. Think about it from maybe a different perspective. Like I said earlier, think about it maybe from your parents' perspective or someone else. Nico, topics pool. I imagine there will be. If you look online, then I imagine you will find things like that. As I say, to be honest, the possible topics are countless. They're endless. So it could be any range of things. And in fact, you could probably brainstorm it yourself. Just think about everyday topics, really. So, television, hobbies, travel, work. You can brainstorm 20 of those topics yourself, probably, and you will get a good list to work from. And as I say, don't worry too much about the topic. Focus on your skills. Focus on your strategies in answering or dealing with each answer. Is the speaking test conducted online through a platform? Then when will it be assessed? On the spot or after the 3 sections? So as I say, Mark, the speaking test can be face-to-face, physically face-to-face, or can be online on Zoom, like we're doing today. And in terms of when it's assessed, it's assessed both during and after. And again, it's the same for both. It's the same whether you're doing it face-to-face or whether you're doing it online on Zoom. It's both during the test, your examiner is assessing you, and also after the test as well. Vanya, sometimes we say, because we're thinking, will that reduce our score? No, that's a good one. Again, if you're doing it once or twice, that won't be a problem. If you do it too often, then that might reduce your score. So it's a question of degree, really. Minimal usage of those things is not a problem. I've just done it myself now, actually, and I think we all do it. But the key is not doing it too much, not over relying on those things. So again, make sure that you do it in moderation, and you should be fine. Okay, we'll come back for more questions later on. So the last section, I'm just going to share with you some resources that the British Council can offer that can help you in your preparation. So Santik has mentioned this earlier on, actually. Firstly, we've got 2 more sessions in the coming weeks. So my colleague Jonathan will be talking about writing next Saturday. And then my colleague Colm will be talking about speaking the following Saturday as well. So they're both great teachers and speakers. So I strongly recommend you make those sessions in the coming weeks. And then we've got a host of free preparation material that you can use, provided by the British Council. So these include, for example, Road to IELTS. Road to IELTS is an online self-access course that you can use. You get exclusive access to this if you register for IELTS with the British Council. And there's, again, a ton of activity there, over 100 different exercises and IELTS questions that you can use for practice and for learning. There's also a number of videos from our IELTS experts with tips and advice on the test. You can do some online preparation courses. So we have MOOCs. MOOCs are massive online open courses, I think. And we offer various MOOC courses with our partner FutureLearn. So you can Google that and you'll find them. And we've got a number of apps as well, which are IELTS specific. So again, different tools for practice in different areas, be it grammar or vocabulary. And there's, in addition, obviously, there are some books and study guides that you may be able to access as well, or order online if you are interested. I think someone mentioned in the chat earlier on about an online trial. So what we have is a computer-delivered IELTS familiarization test. So this is a full version of a full version of a listening, reading, and writing that you would get on a computer-delivered IELTS, just as we have seen it today. So a full version of that, and obviously you get the results for the listening and reading provided to you as well. So if you want to access that, please go to IELTSasia.org and you will find that test there, and that will help you with practice for the computer-delivered IELTS test. And then in addition to that as well, again, you'll find some videos so similar to the videos that we showed in this session today, that again will give you more practice and more tips on the computer-delivered IELTS test, and sometimes specific question types as well. Videos that will look at specific question types. And then there's some general preparation videos. Again, you'll find these on the IELTS Asia website. They'll cover all 4 skills, and for the speaking and writing, particularly, there will be 4 videos for each of the 4 criteria. So I mentioned 4 criteria for writing, 4 criteria for speaking. You'll find a video for each criteria in this section here. And they're all very, very helpful videos, again, with lots of tips and advice. In addition, there's a study planner that you can download, again, from the IELTS Asia website, with a host of links to various practice resources, tutorials, and courses again. So again, another valuable resource. And then if you're interested as well, there's some more general language-related apps that the British Council offer. Again, all of these are free, so go to whatever app store you normally use and search for British Council Learn English, and then you can pick up whichever one is relevant or important for you. Okay, that brings us to the end of our session, really. Hope you found it useful. So we've got time, I think, for some Q&A. So any additional questions that I've not been able to address so far?
Hello, Kishore. So this
Yes.
is Arya. So everyone, I'm from the British Council Indonesia Foundations, exactly from the examinations team. So we've got a question from America's Facebook page from Holmes Sinister Siagian. He's asking if, regarding the task achievement for task 2, how does subjectivity affect the score? Does a background effect on how we understand a particular writing? He means that if we acknowledge that writing is somehow influenced by our culture, how to think or perceive something. For example, Asians have different perspectives to value independency compared to Western.
That's an interesting question. Thank you for that. I think we understand. People will have different perspectives. Cultures have different perspectives, and that's not a problem. There's no perfect answer when you're talking about an IELTS writing, and there is no fixed answer. Oftentimes you'll be given a choice: do you agree or do you disagree? It does not matter which one you choose. It doesn't matter if you agree or if you disagree. It doesn't matter if your examiner agrees with your opinion either. What matters is how effectively you've communicated your position. So your opinion, either way, isn't critical. It's how you communicate your opinion. That's what we're looking for. And again, whether your opinion matches your examiner's opinion, irrelevant, unimportant, not important. What matters is your ability in communicating that opinion and your effectiveness in communicating that opinion.
Okay, thank you, Kishore. So, any other questions, everyone? Otherwise, I have 2 questions actually. First, Kishore, if we are taking the computer-delivered IELTS, will we be getting same recognition from the 10,000 plus of institutions worldwide? And then the second thing is, if we are going to take a computer-delivered IELTS test, can we do it from home, or is it going to be from a venue that are assigned by the British Council?
Thank you. Yeah, good questions. So yes, recognition-wise, the computer-delivered IELTS test result is exactly the same as your paper-based test result, and recognized in exactly the same way. In fact, when you get your result, I don't think your result will even specify whether you did it on computer or paper-based. So recognition-wise, exactly the same. No need to worry about that. Currently, the IELTS test, again, either paper-based or computer-based, has to be in a physical approved testing center. you can't do the IELTS test from home as of now. We were running an at-home test a few months ago because worldwide, obviously, because of the pandemic, a lot of our testing centers were closed. So there was a test that was being offered. You may have heard of called the IELTS indicator. That's not available in Indonesia now, and we don't anticipate that will be returning. So that was doable at home, but as I say, not available now. It's difficult to know what's going to happen in the future. I am sure in the future there will be a test that you can do from home. Of course, the question is when, I can't answer that question. I don't know when. It might be next year. It might be further into the future. I don't know. So for the time being, you can only take the test, again, computer-based or paper-based, in a designated test center. And we've got test centers all over the country. So Jakarta, Bandung, Yogyakarta, Surabaya, Medan, Makassar, for instance. There'll be a test center nearby you, I would imagine.
Okay, final question from Mark. How if there is a problem, connection problem during the test, especially during the speaking test? Will the test be cancelled and rescheduled? And what type of actions that will be taken?
Yeah, so again, I mean, I can't give a definitive answer because it will depend on the circumstances. But if the problems are significant, then in most cases, the speaking test will be rescheduled to another day and time, and so you'll have another chance to take the test, and hopefully another opportunity to avoid those problems if there are any. But again, it will vary depending on the circumstances.
Okay, thank you very much, Kishore. I think we're running out of time. Thank you very much for everyone stays until the end of the sessions. I hope you find it useful. And over to Ed America team.
All right. Thank you so much to our speakers and moderators for today's session. I'm pretty sure a lot of our audience members really find a lot of the information that you guys share helpful. Now, earlier during the event, we asked our audience members a question. True or false? The IELTS is not accepted by any Ivy League institutions. And the correct answer to that is false. The IELTS is accepted by over 3,400 US institutions, including Ivy League institutions. Unfortunately, no one was able to guess correctly on our social media, but thank you to everyone who has participated. Don't forget to tune in next time to get another chance for a shout out from us. Now, you may be wondering, how can I develop an awesome idea for a place like this? That's easy. All you need to do is visit our website at www.atamerica.or.id. All event proposals coming to us will be reviewed and your event might be featured here soon. All you need to do is click on our, sorry. Now, you can also subscribe to our newsletter for all our weekly event updates. That wraps this episode. It's been fun, everyone, but we have to say goodbye for now. Follow our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at @ATAmerica for all our fun contents, event updates, and so much more. All right, thank you again for joining. See you again next time at the next At America TV episode. Bye!